so the traders will, Glenn will go to talk in a few minutes. Glenn?
You've probably seen in the magazine that we're bringing up the ABB and CV wagons. We have them today, and there's a couple of other new ones, the GSV, which has been in the magazine as well, but we're doing another one, the PV explosives van as well. So I've got models of them up the back. Yeah, we've also got LCHs, the CCHs, which we brought out earlier in the year, and the TE flat wagons. But we still do have, and still can continue to get the old kits that we've got, so the 59s, the Garretts, the 36s, 13s. Look, we're working on trying to resurrect some of the OOS kits, but in new formats. So as we've done with the GSV and the CV. So we're slowly working our way through it. The MLB was another kit that we did that Peter had in his range. But we're completely changing them. They're not out of resin castings anymore. So we will work our way through things and try and add some new stuff. Pretty much focused on rolling stock though at this stage, and we will look to try and do some of the locomotives at some point. Well, we've got a lot of new product across the range in British as well. And still got extensive amount of stock at the shop. It's very hard to bring everything along today. So if you can get up to Thornley to see what we've got, if you haven't been there, you'd be surprised with what we've got. Most people say they are. We've got 6,500 line items in the shop now. So.
And for the first presentation, I'll introduce Jeff Potter and let him take over with the...
Now this morning I'm going to be talking about a fantastic collection of photographs, the Holtman collection, that's now available online through the State Library website. And in this presentation today there's not a mention of trains, but don't let that put you off, because in your towns on your layouts, if you're modelling Australian railways, or even if you're doing overseas American western towns or backwoods timber towns or whatever, there will be probably quite a lot of inspiration in these photographs that I show you. 4 hours drive northwest of Sydney. Now between 1871 and 1874, 50 tonnes of gold were extracted from the reefs in the area. Well, there's some of the nuggets that were found. Holtman's there on the second from the left. So this is Hawkins Hill, and so this is some of the very early mines out on Hawkins Hill. So you can see how rough and ready they were. The fronts of the shops were covered with large advertisements, the names and praises of traders, as is customary now, with all newfangled marks, but the place looked more like a fair than a town. So, here's some of the early mines out at Golgong. Now, sometimes it seems that there were little decorative bits added to buildings for no obvious reason. You can see that if you were doing either an early Australian goldfield or something in the west of America or in the bush, the forests of America, that would be right at home.
Oh, I believe it. Who's the 40s? That's a session, isn't it? I think it is. That's not you. It's not me. Right. Jim from Bergie's. No,
Way back in 2005, there was a post-meeting gathering at Blumenville Macca's 3 hours after the Amber exhibition. 3 hours later, Coral Colliery Incline was born. So there was a serviette drawn up, there it is, and there's the finished layout at Rose Hill earlier this year. So where's Corrimal? It's just north of Wollongong. Find that yellow dot on the mountainside, that's where Corrimal Colliery is, or was. This is the powerhouse. Looking at is the skip repair area on the left. This is out of the H.A. Pringle album at the University of Wollongong. Mr. Pringle was the engineer sent out by the Southern Coal Company of New South Wales. If you look at those wagons, it's got SCC of NSW on the side of the wagons. Right beside those wagons is where the double slip is.
That's 3'6", is it?
No, that's standard gauge. It's 2 foot gauge on the coal skips going down the hill into standard gauge wagons. Those wagons are about 6 to 8 tonne capacity at best. Mind you, I'd reckon they were running them close. They were probably registered for 6, but I bet they were running them closer at 8. D-rails. These are impossible to model, so we didn't. This is the only photo of the first Krause after it was abandoned. No photos are known to exist of the first Krause in service. As you can see, the locomotive's been ratted for parts. The bunker's totally rusted out. The key spotting points for this loco is it only ever had half a cab back chute. It never had a full height cab or back in the cab. And it had oval windows rather than round windows in the front of the cab. So that's how you pick the early one from the later one. Here is the second larger Krause. It's the round windows in the front and the full height cab wall at the back. Also notice that this thing's got outside Stevenson valve gear on it. Both Krouses had outside Stevenson.
My name's Brian Anderson. I'm going to be talking about my experience in building a garden railway. And what I'm going to cover is basically why did I go to the garden? Why did I do O scale instead of the normal G scale? What were my objectives when I tried to do that? What were some of the challenges that I faced? And how I went about building the layout. How do you control your trains in the garden? And what ended up happening. I blame Chris Lord and his dad David as to why I ended up in O gauge. I felt the heft of the O gauge and the slow motor control. I thought I've got to be into this. So consequently I moved into O gauge. And then I decided I really want to run long trains. And the problem is when you get into O gauge, you want to run a decent long train. As I'm preaching to the converted here, being Oz 7 Club. A 9 coach train isn't 5 metres long. So we get on to building it. That's why I wanted to do it in the first place. How did I do it? I used a planning tool. The one I used was Rail Modeler on Mac. It was very good. You could plan what you needed in relation to elevations and then give you all the various gradients. Yes, you need a microscope to see the track plan, but that's the whole plan. So then we get to the interesting bits. How do you build the garden railway? My tools to build the baseboard is a grinder, a drill and a pop riveter. So here you can see well, I just buy this stuff in lengths from local steel place. They will actually make up noggings for you. I screw the fibre board to the, so then we get to the curved baseboard. So this is the flexi track. So as you can see here, this is just a piece that I've just got sitting there. That's what it looks like when you're looking for it online. Supports. And one day I was watching a video on YouTube and this train came out of his garage and he was holding it up by bricks. And I went, I can do bricks. And, but you can't just do bricks. Bricks are each the height, so you need to have some way of adjusting it. So what I did was you need to support the bricks on the bottom. So you need a paver on the bottom. You need a paver on the top. And then I found these in Bunnings. These are the supports you use to build a deck. But another important thing when you're doing railways is people support. You've got to walk around the railway. So in some places you have to step up. So I've had to put steps and poles so people can hang on. So then we get on to control in the go. So DC, DCC, dead rail or dead rail with DCC. So I wanted DCC. I didn't want to clean tracks. I put out a test track. In 1 week of trying to run trains on that test track, I had to clean the track 3 times. So we're going with battery-powered road control with DCC decoders. So battery-powered remote control is, in simple terms, using batteries to power the locomotive and a remote control of some description to control the locomotive without having power on the track. In the locomotive, you need some batteries, you need a switch to turn it on, you need a receiver controller, and you need a motor, obviously feeding the motor, and then you need some way of charging set batteries. Wi-Fi Tracks is an Australian company. Steve is actually based in Barara in north of Sydney. He makes a number of different products. Most of you who have anything to do with NCE would be probably aware of his NCE board, which allows you to use Wi-Fi controllers with NCE. He sold thousands of those worldwide. But he also does all this stuff to do control of battery-powered trains. And he also does a new DCC 5 amp controller. And he's looking that will replace NCE systems because I don't know if anyone's tried to buy NCE systems lately, they're just not producing them.
Before I actually start, can I just comment on Brian's talk? Brian, excellent. That was a really great talk. Everybody was very good. Thank you so much. That's great. I'm actually going to start with refreshing your minds a little bit about some of the things I talked about last time. And I posed the question, is it a breakthrough? Is it something really different? This is the question I posed last time. And I think in many ways it is, and some of the things will be clearer as I talk a little later. But the big breakthrough was that there is now an app for the Android. So it's now available on both the Apple and also on the Android. And the Android one has, at the moment, some limitations because the Android version that's been released at the moment is only caters for one locomotive. You can't operate multiple locomotives at the same time. You will be able to, but right at the moment. The other thing, of course, to watch on these is you look at some of the prices. Now, here's a really expensive one. Here you get two, $2.24 each, and on this occasion, you actually have to pay some freight, so there was a total of $8.65. And here's a really interesting one. I'm going to send a couple of examples of this one around. I had high hopes for this because it looks so interesting. It's not bad, but it's not as good as one would have expected. what's unusual about it is its rectangular shape, as you can see, and the fact that it actually has 2 drivers, not one. So I suggested at the time that Blue Nami Dakota would help make a small, low-cost DCC layout. So why not try it? Okay, I needed some information. Could this be it? Now they're just a couple of photos. They're screen grabs from videos that you can find very easily online of the Pitchy Ritchie Railway, and in particular the coffee pot on the Pitchy Ritchie Railway. Now this looks like such a great place. I've never been there, but it looks great on video, and I know some people have been there and it'll bring back some memories. So I saw those 2 pictures, and then I saw that, and I thought, well, maybe that's the starting point. After all, I already have that, which I bought some time ago. Isn't that a strange? Thank you. That's all.
Oh, great.